back for some stories about professional development. These are my personal stories of what I've heard, and obviously, I'm going to kind of keep confidentiality, not including names in them, but these are some pretty good damn stories that I want to tell you guys about. If you remember in a previous video, I kind of talked about the do's and don'ts, and I told you about somebody who really did the wrong thing that rubbed people the wrong way. Most of the people in my office, including my supervisor. So, and that person was highly educated, would come in the morning with a newspaper and then decides to read the newspaper and puts his feet up on the desk. Um, it rubbed everybody the wrong way. Not the best way to demonstrate your professionalism, and ultimately he had a whole bunch of other problems. That basically was a Jekyll and Hyde situation. He was great to interview with, but not really. Didn't turn out to be the person who could do the work. Um, I wanted to fire the guy pretty quickly, but as I was leaving the organization, I didn't have a chance. But my successor wasted no time in getting rid of him, and he was out. And I didn't even think he cared that much that he got fired. Uh, and he was more of a person who just likes going to school and getting as many graduate degrees as possible, or a PhD or something. But work was not something that appealed to him. So, another story that I just want to tell you is that's kind of, I think like it's really telling of the times, because I think when we think of bullying in the office, right? Bullying in the workplace, hostile work environments, you tend to think that most of that is being done by mean girls or men who are harassing women. But I'll tell you one very interesting story, and this is actually a very juicy story that if it ever got out, I think this would cause a lot of ruckus. So what happened was that this was at a time when I was not the boss. So but I was had a couple of years experience in a senior position, and we hired somebody brand new who was great, who was awesome, who's a person of color. Who this guy had I think already had 2 graduate degrees, and very smart, had tons of awards and fellowships and everything. Excellent kind of resume, which is great, right? And and when he came into the work, he showed it. He was very smart. He's not one for drama. Pretty much, you tell him what the job is, he'll do it. So for whatever reason, this guy, his personality, the women in the office did not like him. I really did not understand why they had this horrible kind of perception of him as not being likable. This guy had a girlfriend too. He had a girlfriend that he was committed to, and there was really shouldn't be no jealousy about that, I guess, if it's kind of men versus women. And throughout his time, he tried to do his job, but in every single meeting that we would have, the women in the office would peck at him, essentially, what I call pecking at people until they just die, because they'll say, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you should have brought this, I don't like the fact that you're doing this. There were some legitimate criticisms that you can give some folks, like for example, if you're in a meeting and you pick up your phone and you're literally answering the call in the meeting, that's very unprofessional. And so there were times when he did that type of stuff, and one quick conversation and it's like, all right, I get it. But then sometimes it gets into like a kind of tit for tat situation. So I remember there was one meeting where he was not picking up a phone call, but he was texting somebody. And in terms of paying attention, you want to, avoid those types of distractions. So, but it didn't come from the boss who was saying to that person, don't text while we're in a meeting. All of the girls, all of the women decided that they would peck at him for doing that, even though it's not their responsibility. They're not his supervisor, and they just pecking at him. And then, I think from his perspective, like, I'm just not going to relent. What's the point? Because they're just going to peck at me no matter what. And so he kept digging himself deeper and deeper. And then I remember after that meeting, we did have to have the supervisor step in and tell them that you can't text in meetings, but also you guys need to not openly kind of like target people in meetings. If you have a problem, you let me as a supervisor know. So for the brief amount, he was there for like less than 6 months, but he did so many things in his personal life while he was there. He did not spend any money on his place that he lived. It was like, I think, a basement apartment. He had no furniture other than a twin size bed. He I don't know how he spent his time, but it was a very simple life that he had. And then he decided that he was going to take his paycheck, rather than doing all the stuff that you would do, like buy furniture or go watch a movie, go out to dinner. He actually, with the couple of months that he was with us, he took all of the 100% of the salary and made a down payment on a home. It was as simple as that. That was his game plan, and I didn't understand it at first, but then the amount of dedication and discipline for a person to do that from their paycheck, it's pretty impressive. I don't think people can do that nowadays. And so he did this life plan of his, and then lo and behold, he got accepted into a very prestigious uh, postgraduate program, and he decided he was going to leave. So he had stayed for less than a year, but the decision wasn't hard at all, because these women continued to make him a target, of whatever their mean girl kind of stuff was. So the guy eventually left, and this guy didn't have much of an opportunity to leave, much of a footprint in the organization. And eventually, those mean girls, they all left too. They left and did their own thing. And then, like, I think 2 years later, we found out that he finished the program that he got into, and now was a big name in the community that we worked in. Like everybody looked at him as a community leader. And then he kept going. He kept rising up the ranks until he got into elected office, believe it or not. Got into elected office. People know his story as this super educated guy, this guy who's had all these different experiences, but not that one experience of how he had to face down a whole bunch of mean girls who made his work life a living hell. And I don't think he's ever shared this story before. And I don't think he will, just because it's probably, it would be considered gossip from his side. But I've checked up on the women that had done this to him, and they are nowhere near the success level that this guy has been able to achieve. And I can tell you from more recent information I found out about the guy, he's still going up the ladder. This guy looks like he has the potential to probably be president in, well, he's not old enough now, but he'll be old enough soon. So maybe in 20 years, this guy could be president, because he had that game plan, from the very beginning. And I think I've heard from people who talk to those women that they were willing to finally swallow their ego and says, you know what, he wasn't that bad of a guy. And I'm like, no bullshit. You guys terrorized him. And you know what? Sometimes some people are good enough where they can persevere and they overcome all that bullying, and they make up, you know, they make it to a point where that success is all theirs. So that's my big story. You know, I wanted to tell you because it is very inspiring. Because this person, I got a chance to work with this person. He did not have a good experience, to be honest, but he didn't let that scar him, and he just kept going and kept going, and now he's becoming a very, very successful politician, humanitarian, um, scientist, everything. So just goes to show you just have to work hard and stop caring about what all the haters will tell you. All right, so hopefully you've enjoyed this story about how life works when you're trying to build yourself a career. If you like this story, definitely hit the like button. Can't tell you anything about these people directly, but maybe some smart people will find out, you know, how this life story links up with somebody who's probably going to be in the news in the next 5 to 10 years and draw on this video as a source. But definitely, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Also hit notifications so you'll know when I post new content. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.